Welcome to Extend Your API with Functions and API Gateway, a cloud approach. A little bit about me. I'm Victor Martin, Technology Product Strategy Manager at Oracle Cloud. I'm former software developer at 42 Crunch with API Security, API Gateway for Axway, and I work as well in FetchCo for different financial services. And long time ago, I worked for Indra in air traffic management. What is here for you? I'm going to describe how you can build your API Gateway on the cloud in a public subnet for your end customers and connect your legacy backends, but also extend those APIs with serverless functions. You can improve the performance of those APIs with Redis, with a Redis cache that we are going to cover as well. A little bit of definitions. So let's cover the serverless part. This is a quote I found from 2012. So probably that was the beginning of serverless by Ken Fromm. Basically, it says that serverless doesn't mean that the servers are no longer involved. It means that you don't have to think that much about them, and you don't have to worry about the physical properties, capacity, or other limits. That is very interesting because from that moment, almost a decade ago, we changed the way we provision compute. So at the beginning, we thought about years, long processes of providing infrastructure. Then we moved to month provisioning. We were talking about virtual machines, templates, and so on. Cloud speed up again, and we moved to hours, and now we are talking about seconds billing, what is very interesting. Serverless, the way I see it, is the future of the cloud and is a way to achieve this way to provision services. What is serverless in a broad definition? So it's an abstraction on the servers. It's about minimizing your responsibility on how your services scale in case of different workloads, but also the auto provisioning. So that meaning you don't have to worry anymore about how things get up and running. Granularity cost, what we mentioned, now we are talking about a fine grain where we are paying just for the services that we run by the time that we run them, and highly available. Doesn't matter what happens to the underlying infrastructure, everything is sound and good for you. Serverless is more than functions. We are talking about functions like a piece of code that you run on the cloud, but also there are other services like database as a service, messaging. We are talking about Kafka as a service for streaming architectures, but also storage. That the best example is probably object storage, where you don't have to worry about all the infrastructure. You just pay for your storage, and you pay for how many transactions you do on those resources. And that is very interesting because it simplifies everything, so you can focus on the things that really matter for your business. Let's get into the details of the API Gateway. API Gateways is just a way to deliver APIs to end users in a production way. API Gateways, as a definition, could be as a reverse proxy for APIs, a single point for grouping APIs. And that means, like in the most of the cloud providers and API Gateways providers as well, they call it like deployment. So the deployment is that abstraction that contains all the properties for your backends, the way all the communication will go through the API Gateway. They can cover two ways of communication, the public and private, so meaning north-south communication and east-west. Basically, it doesn't matter if the audience is a private one, an internal, or is a public. So the API Gateway will sit on the edge of your infrastructure, of your system, between that customer and yourself. And because that location, it helps you to protect your API from misuse, good or bad. We will see an example of that with the rate limiting and how simple it is to enable that and get your APIs from the code from your developers as APIs from the specification to that implementation all in one API Gateway. A final one is the improved performance that gives you the API gateway, and that means in general caching and improve the response time. Set up an API gateway. Let's dive into the details. So we have a legacy backend that we want to route through our API gateway. Very simple. We are going to use the path. That is the one that is going to be listened by the API gateway. And then we use methods and the definition of the backend. That is very simple. We are talking about an HTTP backend and a URL that is the destination of that request for the redirection. The rest of the parameters, very simple, timeouts and SSL configuration. In the other side, when you are extending your API, we are talking about the path again, similar thing, the method, and also the backend is going to be different. We are talking about Oracle functions that is open source, and you can try it locally. But basically, the only configuration you need for that is the function ID, so that unique identifier for your serverless function. Rate limiting, and at this point, you see how we are defining different JSON configuration properties that depend on different people. Some developers will just deploy the serverless functions. They care about the code. Some other people will care about the APIs and how that specification get into the hands of the customers. So rate limiting will be an area of responsibility for some people in your organization, and the development will be another, and that is very, very important. So for the rate limiting, we are talking about a request policy that is rate limiting, and then the type. So basically, we have client IP or total. You probably are going to use a combination of both, what is perfectly fine and capable, and the request per second, that in this case, we have 30. We have the cache, very simple. My case and the way I have in the demo that you can run yourself is an external response cache with a Redis service on that port. The only different configuration that you need is the location, the secret ID. So it's meaning that the password of the Redis will be stored in a secure way in a vault. And that is all the information you need. Apart from that, once again, timeouts and SSL verification and different properties about the communication. Another thing that will care to other people in your organization is the observability that is out of the box. And that means that you have login for all the traces for your serverless functions, your API gateways, invoke, access, and also the metrics. So metrics and alarms, you have visibility about latency times, the backend responses, and you can create alarms that are going to notify if something requires your attention. Try it yourself. I put in the chat all the documentation, all the links to everything that I'm mentioned. The most important part is that you can also go and try it yourself, but this presentation is available, is open source. You can download it, modify it, make it your own. And the most important part, in my experience as software developer, is that many people could be a good developer, but the best are the ones that can help others to be better developers. So if you think API Gateway is something that you are interested, try it, learn, and then spread the word. Thank you so much for your time. In these 10 minutes, I will be here for a while answering questions. Thank you so much. And yeah, check what I'm working at my GitHub repository. And thank you so much for your time.